The first light of dawn paints the eastern sky in shades of gold and crimson, casting long shadows across the sand that stretches endlessly toward the great river. You wake on your reed mat in the workers' quarters, feeling the familiar ache in your shoulders and back that has become as constant as breathing. Around you, in the mud brick buildings that house thousands of workers, other young men are beginning to stir. The air is thick with the scent of cooking fires, unwashed bodies, and the ever-present dust that seems to settle into everything in this place where human ambition meets the eternal desert. Your name is Khaemwaset, and you are 16 years old. The name means he who appears in Thebes, given to you by parents who hoped their son might one day serve in the great temples of the south. Instead, you find yourself here on the Giza Plateau, part of the greatest construction project in human history, the building of Pharaoh Khufu's eternal tomb, a pyramid that will dwarf all previous monuments and stand as a testament to Egyptian engineering for thousands of years. You were not born to this life of endless labor under the desert sun. Your father was a scribe in a small village along the Nile, a man who could read and write the sacred hieroglyphs and who taught you the fundamentals of mathematics and written language before fate intervened. 3 years ago, the Nile's annual flood failed to bring sufficient water to your village's fields. When the harvest failed and the tax collectors still demanded their due, your family's modest wealth was insufficient to meet their obligations. In the way of ancient Egypt, where debt could bind entire families, you were brought to the pyramid construction site to work off your family's obligation to the state. The officials who transported you from your village spoke of it as an honor, to contribute to the eternal dwelling of the God King, to be part of something that would last forever. But as you felt the first blisters form on your hands from carrying heavy stones, honor seemed a distant concept compared to the immediate reality of exhausting physical labor. Yet as you lie on your mat in the pre-dawn darkness, listening to the sounds of thousands of workers beginning another day, you feel something stirring within you that you cannot quite name. It is not resignation, though you have learned to accept your circumstances. It is not hope exactly, though you have not abandoned dreams of eventual freedom. It is something more complex, a growing awareness that you are part of something unprecedented in human achievement. The horn sounds across the vast construction site, its deep note echoing off the growing pyramid's limestone faces. Men begin to rise, stretching tired muscles and reaching for the simple bread and beer that will sustain them through another day of moving the massive blocks that will become Pharaoh Khufu's eternal resting place. You sit up slowly, feeling the desert chill that always surprises newcomers who expect Egypt to be uniformly hot. At this hour, with the sun still below the horizon, the air carries a coolness that will disappear completely once Ra begins his daily journey across the sky. You have been here for 3 years now, long enough to understand the rhythms of this extraordinary place. What initially seemed like chaos, thousands of men moving millions of stone blocks according to some incomprehensible plan, has revealed itself to be the most sophisticated organizational achievement in human history. Every person here, from the master architects to the youngest water carriers, plays a precise role in a system that rivals the complexity of the Nile itself. The pyramid rising from the plateau behind you is no longer the modest foundation you saw upon your arrival. Now it towers above the surrounding desert, its 4 sides climbing toward the sky with mathematical precision that speaks of knowledge and skill beyond anything previously attempted. Each morning brings the sight of new courses of stone, perfectly fitted together without mortar, creating walls that will stand when all memory of those who built them has faded into legend. Your work gang consists of 20 men, ranging in age from yourself to grey-bearded veterans who have spent decades moving stone for various royal projects. At first, you were assigned the simplest tasks: carrying water to the stoneworkers, hauling rope and tools, clearing debris from work areas. But gradually, as you demonstrated reliability and intelligence, you were given more complex responsibilities that required both physical strength and mental acuity. Gang leader Seneb, a man whose back has been permanently bent by years of heavy labor, has become something like a father to you during your time here. He noticed early that you could read and write, skills that are rare among the general laborers and valuable for coordinating the complex logistics of pyramid construction. Under his guidance, you learned to keep track of stone deliveries, to calculate the number of workers needed for specific tasks, to read the architectural plans that guide each day's work. Young scribe, Seneb calls you, using the nickname that acknowledges both your literacy and your origins. The stones are waiting for us, and the architects will not accept delays because we prefer our sleeping mats to honest work. You rise and join the stream of workers flowing out of the residential areas toward the construction site proper. The walk takes you past the workshops where skilled craftsmen prepare the tools and materials needed for each day's work. You see coppersmiths sharpening the chisels used to shape stone, rope makers creating the massive cables needed to move multi-ton blocks, and carpenters constructing the sleds and levers that make the impossible seem routine. The scale of the operation becomes apparent as you approach the pyramid itself. Ramps spiral up its sides, allowing teams of workers to drag enormous limestone blocks to ever higher levels. The ramps themselves are engineering marvels, carefully calculated to provide the right combination of manageable grade and sufficient width for the massive sleds that carry stones weighing as much as 15 tons. Master builders move among the workers with the authority of generals, checking measurements and ensuring that each block is placed with the precision that will keep the entire structure stable. But it is the sound that strikes you most forcefully each morning. The rhythmic chanting of work gangs pulling in unison, the steady hammering of stonemasons, the scraping of stone against stone as blocks are maneuvered into position, the calls of overseers directing the choreographed movement of thousands of workers. It is the sound of human determination made audible, of individual efforts combining to achieve something that no single person could imagine, much less accomplish. Your specific assignment today involves working with the delivery teams that transport finished blocks from the nearby quarry to the construction site. This is skilled work that requires understanding of leverage, coordination, and the careful management of the massive wooden sleds that carry stones from cutting area to pyramid. The blocks you help move today will become part of the pyramid's interior chambers, fitting together with tolerances measured in fractions of inches to create passages and rooms that will remain sealed for millennia. As you take your position at one of the guide ropes, you feel the weight of the limestone block settling onto the sled. These stones have been cut with precision that amazes you every time you see it. Flat surfaces that meet at perfect right angles, edges that fit together so precisely that you cannot slide a knife blade between them. The stoneworkers who create these marvels possess skills that seem almost magical, using simple copper tools and careful technique to achieve results that would challenge modern machinery. The team leader calls out the rhythm, and 20 men coordinate their efforts to begin moving the multi-ton load across the carefully prepared roadway. The work requires not just strength, but timing and teamwork. Any man who pulls out of rhythm can cause the entire load to shift dangerously. You have learned to read the subtle signs that indicate when the sled is tracking properly, when adjustments are needed, when potential problems are developing. As the morning progresses and the sun climbs higher, the work becomes more challenging. The desert heat is merciless, turning the construction site into a furnace that tests human endurance to its limits. Water carriers move constantly among the workers, providing the hydration that keeps men functional in conditions that would quickly prove fatal to the unprepared. Salt tablets made from Nile deposits help replace what is lost through constant perspiration. But there is also something almost meditative about the work when it goes well. The rhythm of coordinated effort, the satisfaction of watching massive stones move smoothly along their intended paths, the growing awareness that each block placed brings the Great Pyramid closer to completion. All of these create a sense of participation in something transcendent. You are not just moving stone, you are helping to create a monument that will outlast empires. During the midday break, when the sun is too intense for even this hardy workforce to continue, you retreat to whatever shade can be found and consume the rations that keep you fed, if not satisfied. The food is simple but adequate. Bread baked fresh each morning, beer brewed from barley, onions and garlic that help prevent the diseases that can devastate large groups of people living in close quarters. Occasional meat from cattle raised specifically to feed the workforce. It is during these rest periods that you hear the stories and conversations that help you understand the larger significance of what you are helping to create. The older workers speak of previous royal projects, temples and monuments that required years of labor, but nothing approaching the scale of Khufu's pyramid. They describe the evolution of building techniques, the gradual accumulation of knowledge that has made this unprecedented construction possible. Anhur, an old stoneworker whose hands are gnarled from decades of wielding chisel and mallet, often shares his observations about the project's technical innovations. Each pyramid teaches us something new, he explains, his weathered face serious with the weight of accumulated wisdom. Djoser's step pyramid showed us how to build high. The pyramids at Medum taught us about angles and structural stability. Now, with this Great Pyramid, we are learning to build on a scale that seemed impossible just a generation ago. You listen carefully to such conversations, understanding that you are witnessing the development of knowledge that will influence building techniques for centuries to come. The mathematical principles being applied here, the engineering solutions being developed, the organizational methods being refined, all of these represent advances in human capability that extend far beyond the construction of a single monument. The afternoon brings different challenges as the heat reaches its peak and the work becomes even more demanding. Stone blocks that seemed manageable in the cooler morning hours now radiate heat that makes them painful to touch. The wooden sleds expand in the heat, sometimes requiring adjustment of the ropes and rollers that keep them moving smoothly. Even the stone itself becomes more difficult to work as thermal expansion affects the precise tolerances required for proper fit. Yet the work continues, driven by a combination of necessity and pride that keeps the massive workforce functioning despite the challenging conditions. You have come to understand that this is more than just a job for most of the men here. It is a chance to be part of something that will be remembered long after their individual names are forgotten, to contribute skills and effort to a project that represents the highest aspirations of their civilization. Your own attitude toward the work has evolved considerably during your 3 years here. The initial resentment and despair have been replaced by something more complex, a mixture of acceptance, growing competence, and grudging admiration for the magnitude of what is being accomplished. You have learned skills that will serve you well, regardless of what the future holds, and you have gained an understanding of engineering and mathematics that few people of your generation will ever possess. As evening approaches and the worst heat begins to subside, the pace of work actually increases. The cooler temperatures allow for greater exertion, and there is often a push to complete specific tasks before the day ends. Today's goal is to position a series of blocks that will form part of the Grand Gallery, the impressive ascending passage that leads to the king's burial chamber deep within the pyramid's heart. Working on interior elements requires different skills than the external construction you have mostly been involved with previously. The tolerances are even tighter, the fit between stones even more critical. Any error in placement could affect the structural integrity of chambers that must remain stable under the weight of millions of tons of stone above them. The responsibility is sobering, and you approach each task with the care and attention it demands. The master builder overseeing this section is Amenhotep, a man whose reputation for precision and innovation has made him legendary among the construction workforce. He moves among the workers with quiet authority, checking measurements, adjusting techniques, ensuring that each element meets the exacting standards required for this most critical part of the pyramid. His presence is both intimidating and inspiring, proof that exceptional skill and dedication can elevate a man far above his original station. As you help guide a massive granite block into position within the Grand Gallery, Amenhotep notices your careful attention to detail and the competent way you handle the measuring instruments used to ensure proper placement. After the block is successfully positioned, he approaches you with an expression of thoughtful evaluation. "You handle the tools with understanding," he observes, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being listened to carefully. "Your movements show that you comprehend not just what we are doing, but why we do it in this specific way. That is rare among the general workforce." His words carry implications that make your heart race with possibilities you had not dared to consider. Among the skilled craftsmen, there are opportunities for advancement, for learning specialized techniques that could lead to positions of responsibility and respect. The prospect of rising above the ranks of general laborers, of developing expertise that would be valued throughout Egypt, represents a kind of hope you had not allowed yourself to feel. "I watch and I learn," you reply carefully, aware that this conversation could significantly affect your future. "The work fascinates me, and I want to understand how such precision is achieved with the tools and methods available to us." Amenhotep nods approvingly. "Tomorrow, report to my workshop after the morning's work. I need assistants who can be trusted with delicate measurements and who understand that a small error in preparation can ruin months of effort. If you prove capable, there may be opportunities for training in the more specialized aspects of our craft." The remainder of the day passes in a blur of excitement and nervous anticipation. The possibility of joining the ranks of skilled craftsmen represents not just an improvement in working conditions, but a fundamental change in your status and prospects. The specialized knowledge possessed by master builders like Amenhotep is valued throughout Egypt, opening doors to opportunities that could eventually lead to freedom and prosperity. As the day's work ends and the workforce begins its trek back to the residential areas, you find yourself looking at the growing pyramid with new eyes. What had been a symbol of your bondage now appears as a pathway to advancement, a training ground where exceptional skills can be developed and demonstrated. The massive structure rising from the desert represents not just Pharaoh Khufu's tomb, but the accumulated knowledge and ambition of an entire civilization. The evening meal is a social time when workers from different gangs share news and gossip from across the vast construction site. Tonight, you listen to the conversations with heightened attention, trying to learn everything possible about the skilled craftsmen and their work. The stories you hear speak of a world within a world, master builders who command respect from nobles, craftsmen whose innovations improve building techniques, artisans whose skills are so valued that they enjoy privileges unknown to ordinary workers. JD, your longtime work partner, notices your distracted state and questions you about your conversation with Amenhotep. When you explain the opportunity that may be opening, his weathered face splits into a rare smile. "I have watched you grow from a frightened village boy into a capable worker," he says with genuine warmth. "If any man here deserves the chance to rise above this hard life, it is you. Use this opportunity well, and perhaps someday you will be the master builder directing crews of young men eager to learn." The night passes slowly as excitement and nervousness war within you. Sleep comes in fragments, interrupted by dreams of working alongside master craftsmen, of understanding the deepest secrets of pyramid construction, of eventually returning to your village, not as a failed debtor, but as a skilled professional, capable of supporting your family in comfort and security. When dawn finally arrives, you approach the new day with an energy and purpose that carries you through the morning's regular duties with unprecedented efficiency. Every task is completed with extra care. Every opportunity to demonstrate competence is seized. By the time the morning shift ends, you have positioned yourself as well as possible for the evaluation that may determine your future. The workshop of master builder Amenhotep occupies a privileged position near the pyramid's base, where the most critical construction decisions are made daily. As you approach the mud brick building after your morning's labor, you feel your heartbeat quicken with nervous anticipation. Through the open doorway, you can see skilled craftsmen bent over drawing boards, their hands moving with practiced precision as they create the detailed plans that guide each day's construction efforts. Amenhotep greets you with a nod of acknowledgement, his sharp eyes taking in every detail of your appearance and bearing. Punctuality is essential in this work, he observes approvingly. A delay in measurements can cascade through the entire construction schedule, affecting the work of hundreds of men. Come, let me show you what we do here. The interior of the workshop reveals a world of sophisticated technology that exists parallel to the brute force labor you have known. Precise measuring instruments crafted from copper and wood line the walls, their surfaces polished smooth through years of careful use. Drawing boards hold papyrus sheets covered with geometric calculations and architectural drawings that would challenge the most learned scribes. Stone samples display the various types of limestone, granite, and basalt used in different parts of the pyramid, each chosen for specific properties that affect both appearance and structural performance. Building a pyramid requires more than moving heavy stones, Amenhotep explains as he guides you through the workshop. Every block must be cut to precise dimensions, positioned at exact angles, aligned with astronomical observations that connect the pharaoh's tomb to the eternal patterns of the heavens. The mathematics involved would challenge the greatest scholars, yet it must be applied by workers using simple tools under difficult conditions. You watch in fascination as a senior craftsman uses a plumb line and wooden square to check the alignment of a scale model that represents one section of the pyramid's internal passages. The precision required is extraordinary. Deviations measured in fractions of inches could accumulate over the pyramid's vast scale to create serious structural problems. Every measurement must be checked and rechecked, every calculation verified through multiple methods. Your first task, Amenhotep continues, leading you to a workspace equipped with the basic instruments of the surveyor's trade, will be to learn the use of these tools with sufficient precision to assist in the daily measurements that guide our work. The plumb line, the square, the measuring rod, the water level, these simple devices, properly used, allow us to achieve accuracy that seems impossible to those who do not understand their principles. The training that follows over the subsequent weeks proves to be the most intellectually demanding experience of your life. Mathematics that had seemed abstract when your father taught you basic arithmetic now becomes concrete and essential as you learn to calculate angles, volumes, and structural loads. The geometric principles underlying pyramid construction reveal themselves as elegant solutions to engineering problems of unprecedented complexity. Under Amenhotep's patient guidance, you master the use of surveying instruments that allow workers to maintain precise alignments over vast distances. The techniques for ensuring that the pyramid's base forms a perfect square, that its sides rise at exactly the correct angle, that its internal passages align with specific stars. All of these require mathematical knowledge combined with practical skill that takes months to develop. Your literacy, that gift from your father that initially seemed worthless in a world of physical labor, now proves invaluable. The workshop maintains detailed records of every aspect of construction, daily progress reports, material requirements, worker assignments, architectural modifications. Your ability to read and write hieroglyphs makes you useful for tasks that require both technical knowledge and administrative skill. As your competence grows, Amenhotep begins assigning you more responsible duties. You assist with the daily surveys that ensure the pyramid's sides remain properly aligned as they rise toward their eventual apex. You help calculate the quantities of stone, mortar, and other materials needed for upcoming work phases. Most importantly, you begin to understand the engineering principles that make the pyramid's construction possible. The revelation that changes your understanding of the entire project comes when Amenhotep invites you to observe the planning session for the pyramid's most challenging feature, the burial chamber itself. The room where Pharaoh Khufu will spend eternity represents the culmination of everything the builders have learned about stone construction, requiring techniques that push the limits of available technology. The chamber must support the weight of the entire pyramid above it, Amenhotep explains, as the master builders debate various approaches to the engineering challenge. The roof stones alone will weigh many tons each, and they must remain stable for thousands of years. Any failure would be catastrophic, not just for the physical structure, but for the pharaoh's eternal journey to the afterlife. The solution they develop demonstrates the sophistication of Egyptian engineering at its peak. A series of relieving chambers above the burial room will distribute the enormous load safely to the pyramid's solid core, while the chamber itself is lined with granite blocks fitted together with tolerances that would challenge modern builders. The mathematical calculations required to design this system fill multiple papyrus sheets with complex geometric analysis. Working alongside the master builders as they refine these plans gives you insight into a level of technical sophistication that few people of your era will ever witness. These men possess knowledge that represents centuries of accumulated experience, refined through the construction of previous pyramids and now applied to the greatest building project in human history. Their discussions reveal depth of understanding that equals anything achieved by the most learned priests or scribes. Your growing expertise does not go unnoticed by the other workers. Gradually, you find yourself consulted on technical questions, asked to verify measurements, included in discussions about construction methods. The transition from general laborer to skilled craftsman happens so gradually that you barely notice it, until you realize that other workers now address you with the respect accorded to those who possess valuable knowledge. The change in your living conditions reflects your new status. Instead of the crowded dormitories housing general laborers, you are assigned quarters in the craftsman's compound, where you have more space, better food, and access to amenities that make the harsh conditions more bearable. More importantly, you are now part of a community that values learning and innovation, where conversations center on technical challenges rather than mere survival. The work itself becomes more engaging as you take on responsibilities that require both mental and physical skills. You assist with the installation of the massive granite beams that will roof the burial chamber, a process that requires precise coordination of lifting equipment, careful positioning of supports, and constant monitoring of stress loads. The successful completion of such tasks provides satisfaction that goes far beyond the simple completion of assigned labor. One evening, as you review the day's measurements in preparation for tomorrow's work, Amenhotep approaches you with an expression of serious consideration. "You have progressed beyond my initial expectations," he says, settling onto a stool beside your workspace. "Your understanding of our methods has developed to the point where you could supervise construction crews yourself. That raises the question of what you want to do with this knowledge. The question forces you to confront possibilities you have been afraid to consider too seriously. Your debt to the state will eventually be satisfied, but that freedom will mean little without skills that provide opportunities for advancement. The expertise you have gained here, however, represents knowledge that will be valuable wherever stone buildings are constructed throughout Egypt." "I want to continue learning," you reply after careful consideration. "This project will eventually be completed, but there will be other buildings, other engineering challenges. The principles I've learned here could be applied to temples, palaces, monuments that will employ skilled craftsmen for generations to come." Amenhotep nods approvingly. That is the answer of a true craftsman, someone who sees each project as an opportunity to develop greater expertise, rather than simply a task to be completed. There is a proposal I want to discuss with you, one that could significantly affect your future prospects. The proposal he outlines represents an opportunity beyond anything you had dared to imagine. A wealthy merchant in Memphis, impressed by the quality of work being done on the pyramid, has commissioned a tomb complex for his family that will incorporate the most advanced building techniques being developed at Giza. The project will require a team of skilled craftsmen capable of adapting pyramid construction methods to a smaller but still technically demanding structure. I have been asked to recommend candidates for this project, Amenhotep continues. It would mean leaving Giza before the pyramid is completed, but it would also mean working as a master craftsman rather than an assistant. The compensation would be sufficient to satisfy your remaining debt obligations while providing income to support your family as well. The decision requires careful consideration of competing values and opportunities. Remaining at Giza would allow you to witness the completion of the greatest building project in human history, to be part of something that will be remembered for thousands of years. But accepting the Memphis Commission would provide financial security and professional independence that could benefit your family for generations. After discussing the opportunity with JD and other workers whose judgment you trust, you decide to accept the commission. The chance to establish yourself as an independent craftsman, to build a reputation that could lead to future opportunities, outweighs the satisfaction of seeing the pyramid completed. The knowledge and skills you have gained here will travel with you, applicable to any stone construction project you might encounter. The weeks that follow are filled with intensive preparation for your new responsibilities. Amenhotep ensures that your understanding of construction principles is comprehensive enough to handle the challenges you will face without direct supervision. You study architectural drawings, practice complex calculations, and observe the master builders as they solve particularly difficult technical problems. The farewell ceremonies when you finally leave Giza are more emotional than you expected. The bonds formed through shared labor under demanding conditions have created friendships that transcend the normal social barriers between men of different backgrounds. Workers who started as strangers have become brothers, united by their participation in an achievement that will outlast empires. Seneb, your first gang leader, who recognized your potential when you were still a frightened village boy, offers words of encouragement that bring tears to your eyes. You came here as payment for a debt, he says, his weathered hands gripping your shoulders with paternal affection. You leave as a master craftsman whose skills will be valued wherever fine buildings are constructed. Use your knowledge well, and perhaps someday young men will look to you for the guidance and opportunity that Amenhotep provided. The journey to Memphis takes several days by riverboat, giving you time to reflect on the transformation you have undergone during your years at the pyramid site. The frightened, resentful youth who arrived as bonded labor has become a confident professional whose expertise is sought by wealthy clients. The knowledge gained through years of demanding work represents a kind of wealth that cannot be stolen or lost, skills that will provide security and opportunity for the rest of your life. The tomb project in Memphis proves to be everything Amenhotep promised and more. Working as a master craftsman rather than an assistant gives you authority and responsibility that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier. The client, a successful merchant named Kaiti, treats you with respect that acknowledges your professional competence rather than your social origins. The technical challenges of the project allow you to apply everything you learned at Giza while developing new solutions appropriate to a smaller but still sophisticated structure. The tomb incorporates innovative features that demonstrate your growing understanding of architectural principles, earning praise from other craftsmen, and establishing your reputation as someone capable of exceptional work. Most importantly, the income from the project allows you to send substantial amounts to your family, transforming their economic situation from desperate debt to comfortable security. Letters from your village describe improvements to your family's home, the purchase of additional land, the respect now accorded to the family of a successful craftsman. Your father writes of his pride in a son who has not only satisfied the family's obligations, but elevated their status within the community. As the Memphis tomb nears completion, you begin receiving inquiries about future projects from other wealthy clients who have observed your work. The reputation you have built opens doors to opportunities throughout Egypt, where skilled craftsmen capable of sophisticated stone construction are always in demand. The prospect of choosing among multiple projects, of commanding substantial fees for your expertise, represents a level of professional success that seemed impossible when you first arrived at the pyramid site. But even as you enjoy your newfound prosperity and status, your thoughts return frequently to the Great Pyramid you helped build. In quiet moments, you remember the satisfaction of watching massive stones move into place with perfect precision, the camaraderie of workers united in pursuit of an impossible goal, the sense of participating in something that transcended individual ambition to become a statement about human capability itself. The pyramid has given you more than skills and professional opportunities. It has provided an understanding of what humans can achieve when individual efforts combine in pursuit of a shared vision. The mathematical principles you learned there, the engineering techniques you mastered, the organizational methods you observed, all of these represent knowledge that will influence building practices for centuries to come. Your story becomes part of the larger narrative of the pyramid's construction, though your name will never appear in the formal records that chronicle the achievement. Like thousands of other workers, you contributed skills and effort to something that no individual could have imagined, much less accomplished alone. The monument that rises from the Giza plateau represents the collective achievement of an entire civilization at the peak of its capabilities. Years later, when you have established yourself as one of Egypt's most respected master builders, you return to Giza to see the completed pyramid. The structure that dominated your youth now stands finished, its smooth limestone casing catching the desert sun and reflecting it back toward the heavens. The precision of its construction, the elegance of its proportions, the sophistication of its internal passages, all testify to the skill and dedication of the men who built it. Standing in the shadow of the Great Pyramid, you feel a deep satisfaction that goes beyond personal achievement. You are part of creating something that will endure long after all memory of its builders has faded into legend. The knowledge gained through that experience has allowed you to build a successful career, to support your family in comfort, to contribute to other projects that enhance the glory of Egyptian civilization. The young men working on current construction projects look to you for guidance and inspiration, just as you once looked to Amenhotep and other master builders. In teaching them, you pass on not just technical knowledge, but the understanding that exceptional achievement requires dedication, precision, and willingness to subordinate individual comfort to shared goals. Your transformation from debt slave to master craftsman represents more than personal success. It demonstrates the opportunities that Egyptian society provides for those willing to work hard and learn continuously. The pyramid that seemed like a symbol of oppression when you first arrived became the foundation for a life of achievement and respect that exceeded anything you had dared to hope. As the sun sets behind the Great Pyramid, painting its limestone faces in shades of gold and crimson, you offer a silent prayer of gratitude to the gods who guided your journey from desperate circumstances to professional success. The monument before you will stand for thousands of years, a testament to human ambition and capability. But it also represents something more personal, the transformation of a village boy into a master craftsman, the conversion of forced labor into chosen profession, the evolution of despair into hope fulfilled. You have built the pyramids, and in doing so, you have built a life worthy of the greatest achievement in human history. The knowledge gained, the skills developed, the reputation earned, all of these will serve you well in the years to come as you continue to create structures that honor the gods and demonstrate the capabilities of Egyptian civilization at its peak. The stars appear one by one in the darkening sky, the same celestial patterns that guided the pyramid's construction and will continue to watch over it through the millennia to come. Your part in its creation is complete, but your story continues, enriched by the understanding that comes from participating in something truly eternal. You have helped build a wonder of the world, and in the process, you have discovered the wonder within yourself.